So my name is Patrick Lawson. I'm a 2005 graduate of the McCallie School. And I'm now working back in the admission office.
Now, McCallie must be a special place for you, but if you have to introduce the school to people who are not familiar with the school, how would you describe the school?
McCallie is an all-boys boarding and day school in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
McCallie 呢，它有3个特点。第一，它是一个学术很强的男校；第二，它是一个以走读学生为主的学校，在1000多位学生之中有250个寄宿生；第三，它是一个在南部的寄宿学校。很多的美国寄宿学校呢都是在新英格兰地区，但是呢 ，McCallie 它在 Tennessee。
Right, and then earlier you mentioned in the presentation that male brain and female brain actually functions very differently.
Very differently.
Yeah, it would be great if you can
Sure.
elaborate
So
on that.
this is, I'm told, fairly new to a lot of Chinese families.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to talk about it. Again, I'm not a brain scientist. So if you are a brain scientist, forgive me. The female brain tends to develop faster, right? The prefrontal cortex is firm, right, in girls as early as 18 or 19.
Right.
It's not in boys until 25, 26, 27. It's a huge difference. Boys tend to benefit from specific, right? The general is sort of overwhelming to them. So the story we tell, if you tell your son, go clean your room.
Right.
10 minutes, 15 minutes later, he'll come back and say, Mom, my room's clean, right? He'll do it every time. I've seen my son do it. And I go in and check his room. His room's not clean. He's done nothing to his room. Nothing's different.
Right.
But if I were to say to him, make your bed, take out the trash, put your clothes away, oh, well, I can do that.
Right.
And that's how you get a boy to be successful. If you give him very specific things. We do this in school too. A lot of our afternoon activities, so for example, start at exact times. Play practice, for example, doesn't start at 6, it starts at 5:59. We want boys to be early. We want them to be there at 6. We want them to be there at 5:59. It means different things in their brain. The specific times makes a huge difference. And it seems like a silly thing. Try it. Because I think the Chinese education system values, and rightly so, memorization because it rewards hard work.
Right.
The more you study, the harder you study, the better you are going to remember this. I understand that there's value in that. Teenage boy brains aren't built for that because the hippocampus, it's a structure in the brain, is smaller in teenage boys than it is in girls.
For a McCallie student, what are some of the characters if you can pin down on, let's say, 3 or 4 character traits?
Yeah, so the first one, I think this is maybe the most important because it's more encompassing. I want students to be passionate about something. Sometimes, so many Chinese students we talk to are very broad. They play the piano, they like soccer, they like badminton, they've done swimming, they've done violin, they play Go. These are all great.
Yeah.
But if you're not passionate about something, I want to see that zeal, right? Because I like students that come to me and they say, look at this robot I built that can solve the Rubik's Cube. I'm willing to put the time and energy into building a robot that can solve a Rubik's Cube. That's what I want.
That's crazy.
I want you to bring that enthusiasm for education to the school.
热情不是光靠说的，而是要证明出来。举个例子，如果你热爱物理，那么你最喜欢的物理学家是谁？你最印象深刻的物理实验是什么？课外你自己做了哪些物理研究？能够回答出这些问题，才能证明你对这个话题有热情。
Well, now as an educator, so much about education is to prepare students for the future.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
In your opinion, what are some of the required and core skills that will make a student successful in the future world?
You've got to learn to interact with adults. Adults interact with adults.
Yes.
So in the future, as they grow up, they've got to learn to do that.
Yeah.
You have to be able to adapt. I talk, sometimes things don't go your way. How you respond when things don't go your way is how successful you will be.
Right.
You've got to be able to be responsible for yourself, right? It's a hard thing to ask a 14-year-old to be completely responsible for himself. But you've got to get yourself out of bed.
Yeah.
We make the food, but you've got to come eat it.
Right.
We have laundry machines, but if you don't want to be stinky, you got to do your own laundry.
Right.
So these are things that are essential skills for our boys as they mature. Increasingly, we're beginning to focus more on the science and technology, as I think it's a market that has blown up. So because of that, we offer things like design thinking and innovation and computer programming, robotics. We still have all the great traditional liberal arts stuff.
Right.
But if you're going to exist in the 21st century, you've got to at least be aware of where the world is moving.
今年拍这哥们儿还挺有意思。
是啊，他特幽默是吧？他其实是05年刚刚从我们 McCallie 毕业，他年龄不是特别的大。然后呢，他是因为在 McCallie 当年是一个 trouble maker，校长说天天把他叫办公室，各种的去挨骂。然后呢，他毕业之后，他就觉得说，哎呀 ，McCallie 对我的整个成长太有帮助了，所以就回归学校了，做了7年了已经。
这个学校对他的影响也挺大的。
是。